Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey, private practice heroes, it's Kathy Colaiacovo with the Marketing Your Private Practice podcast. And today we're doing one of our free marketing reviews, and I have Tamberly Powell in the studio here today, and she is a registered dietitian nutritionist from Eugene, Oregon. And Tamberly, I want to welcome you to the podcast today and to your special marketing review.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So before we dive in and I tell you a little bit about Tamberly and get her to introduce herself and her practice, I do want to remind everybody listening that these reviews are free. I offer them. They are open to everyone. And they're a way that I can help business and practice owners focus on a marketing roadblock, something that's holding you back, keeping you stuck, keeping you from growing your practice or your business, so that you can get some ideas after we talk for 20 minutes or so that will get you started on a path to start seeing some of the results that you're looking for and reaching your goals with your practice. My goal is always to try and give you some actionable items, tangible things that you can do that will help you thrive in practice or business. So, Tamberly, when you applied for the review today, you asked if we could look at your website because you're wondering, big question here is you need clients, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're trying to figure out, like most practice and business owners, how do I get clients to find me? First off, I'm going to start out because I want to make sure we get a bit of a base point about who you are, what your business is, so that we can talk a little bit about some of the best ways that you can use the marketing tools and everything that you have that can get your business out online so that people can find you. So before we jump into that though, I'm going to put you on the spot here and get you to give us a little bit of an elevator pitch. And to make it easier, I always tell people, why don't you stick with, we know your name, but say it again, because when you've got a soapbox moment, you always want to take advantage of it. Tell us what your business name is, your company name, your website, Eugene, Oregon. Okay, so Oregon. I always get that messed up as a Canadian, sorry. And then what I want you to tell me is what's your main service that you offer your clients? So that's a key thing here is I want to know what that service is. So let's hear that elevator pitch.
Sounds great. I am Tamberly Powell. I have a private practice, Tamberly Powell Nutrition. You can find me at www.tamberlypowell.com. And my specialty is working with families to help them solve feeding issues. I have workshops I give to parents to teach them best practices on how to approach feeding to raise children who have positive eating attitudes and behaviors. And I also do one-on-one sessions to help people who need a little bit more support with implementing those best practices.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So I'm going to get you to back up again and tell me, if you were to describe your service, what do you call it?
Nutrition counseling.
All right. And your specialty is?
Families.
Okay.
Parents
family nutrition or?
I would say parents with kids 6 months through adolescence.
All right. So that's the kind of clients you help with nutrition counseling. And
Yes.
Because it is important in the online world, does your practice accept insurance or not? Is it a cash pay or a private pay?
So I'm in the beginning phases. I am approved as a provider with one insurance company. I'm hoping to get approved with another one soon. I also did get one no, and I have kind of lots in the making, but just waiting to hear about it. It's a long process.
Okay. Yeah, I know it is. It is. But it's important to know that because sometimes how you're going to market your practice when you have insurance is something that you can offer clients that your services can get paid by insurance or not can be very different. So that's why I always like to know that as well about anyone that's coming in for one of these reviews or any of my clients, because it does change some of the focus of what you're going to do. All right. You're new in business. You've been in business privately for under a year?
Yes. So this is a
Right.
new adventure for me. But I
Okay.
have been a registered dietitian for over 20 years. But I've been in education, not private practice.
Okay. So this is all kind of brand new and you have your website, tamberlypowell.com, and you manage that yourself. You're kind of doing that DIY. A lot of solo practice owners are. And so you've
Yep.
probably learned how to do a little website building and designing. And is
Yes,
that
it
part
was
of what you've
fun.
been doing too? Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. Not everybody would say it's fun. I'm just going to say.
Yes, I liked the website building, the creative side of it.
Yeah, it can be an outlet for some people, I find a nice outlet. All right. You are trying to figure out how clients can find you. So tell me a little bit about what you've done to this point to try and do this. And before you do that, do you see, because this is important these days too, do you see people in person or online, like virtually only, or a mix?
So I have a mix. I have both options. And so far to try to get my name out there, I have my website, although I'm not sure if people are finding the website. I don't think they are. I did create a Google business profile to help lead people to my website. I am on healthprof.com. So I created a profile there for people to find me. And I have reached out to a pediatric office that I'm in contact with. I actually went to one of their meetings and gave a little presentation, hoping to offer workshops after hours at their clinic to get my name out there. That's still in the making. I started that process in July. We're now in November and I have not moved forward on that. I've reached out basically to all the pediatricians in the area. A lot of them have in-house dietitians. The ones that don't, I sent out marketing letters to. And that's about it so far, I think.
All right. So you're doing, I will say, like you've got a good mix there. So you've got the website, your online presence, your one of your key foundations. Health Profs, Google Business Profiles are online directories. That's another one of, I'm always looking for the 10 marketing foundations to be in place. Those are two of them. So that's awesome. You're also doing offline marketing by the referral and the networking that you're doing with pediatric offices. So that's key as well. One thing I will challenge you on is just because they have a dietitian in-house doesn't mean they're not open to someone like you. In-house dietitians don't always have the specialty a doctor may need their client to have. They may, but if they know of you too, sometimes they could be better serving their patients by referring to someone like you. So I would always still try. If you really have some deep insight into it and it's like a definite no, go for it. But I'm always of the mind that everything is a no until you ask and get the no
Yeah,
answer from the
true.
horse's mouth, right?
That is good to know. I actually did ask because I have a mutual contact, a friend that had an inside connection. So I was even able to name drop and they still were like, no,
No.
we have
Okay.
our own
And
dietitian. So
that's
yeah.
good. And that's good to do it. Because sometimes when they find out what your specialty might be, and yours is different. It's
Mhm.
granted they're a pediatric office, so they're going to probably focus on it. But sometimes you just don't know when the in-house
Right.
person isn't a good fit for some people. And
Yes.
knowing there's someone there could sometimes help as well. But it is definitely not where I would focus because you want to focus where there is no dietitian so you can be the only one.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I did
So,
just I
yeah.
sent another marketing letter we have a organization here called Parenting Now, which is a
Okay.
really great organization and they offer parenting classes, but no nutrition classes. So I sent them a letter today.
Yeah. And those are really good too. Like, especially when you're growing and you're just starting out, going to places where there could be a collection of your ideal clients in the room and getting the opportunity to teach them something, do a lunch and learn, whatever it could be. Those are excellent opportunities that you can take to try and get the word out about you as well. So you've got a really good start here. Okay. Where, just from what we've heard, what I've heard you say here, and, when I do these, I do go on and look at people's website and take a peek at them. And you were, I think, in a recent webinar, I don't know what I want to call what I was doing with Joyce there in her Facebook group with dietitians and nutritionists. So I went in to just sort of do a Facebook Live to Nutrition Counseling Academy. Joyce Faraj Ardura hosts that. And I was in there doing a talk on, ways to get clients online using your website or other things. So I think, Tamberly, you were in, or either there live or you listened to it later on.
Yes.
And then booked the review. So, and I can tell by looking at your website that you've probably taken some of those tips that I shared that day and done some action with them, which is awesome to see.
I did. They were fantastic tips.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So one of the things that I had talked about in that class is your message, because your message that you have, whether it's on your website, whether it's to the pediatrician offices, whether it's to a group of people that you're in front of, wherever you are, whatever you're talking about, whatever you're saying to people about who you are and what you're doing is critical. That's the biggest starting point in making sure that you're reaching the right people. We talked in that session, what I was explaining to everyone there is that if your website or your marketing messages anywhere don't answer 5 critical questions for people looking at them, they're probably going to move on. So for me, this is always a very important part of how anybody puts their marketing content out there, their message, whether it's you speaking to someone face-to-face or online. People always want to know answers, and there's 5 questions that you and your website and your presence and your message should answer. So who is your ideal client or audience? You want to identify them somehow. You want to acknowledge that you know what their biggest problem is. You want to share what your solution can do for them. You share a little bit about how you deliver the solution and how they can get started. Because what people want to know when they talk to you in person, or they see your information in one of those marketing letters, or they're reading your website online, they want to know, is this website for me? Is this person for me? Do they understand my problem? Can they help me solve my problem? What kind of help am I going to get here? And if I wanted to go ahead with this, how do I start? Quickly looking at, and your elevator pitch gives me a bit of an idea on that this is something you need to hone in on a little, because it is something that's going to be important, whether it's in your Google business profile, it's on your Health Profs profile, it's on your website, and those letters that you're sending out to the pediatrician offices.
Right. And I did, you did cover these aspects in that webinar, and I did go and make changes to my website and my Health Prof profile, but I would love to get feedback on whether you think I'm there or not, or still need more tweaking.
Perfect. With what you're doing, when I said earlier, tell me who you are, what your website is, and what your main service is. Your main service kind of went a little longer and farther than you often have time to explain. And that's why I had to clarify, because you brought more into it than, and I kind of forgot what you said at the beginning. Okay.
Okay.
So, and this is where we talk about this all the time in the Thrive Marketing Academy, my program members in there, because more than half of the people in there are dietitians. And you all have done a lot of training. You've done a ton of training. You've done a ton of research papers, thesis papers sometimes, like you've got it all. So we call some of these the thesis moments is what we refer to them as, because you're making things way too complicated. And people want a straightforward answer. So for you, the main service that you offer is nutrition counseling services. So when people come to your website, or when you tell them about what you have to offer, you offer nutrition counseling services or to help, but you always want to identify, and it doesn't have to be at the beginning. But the reason that you want to identify this is because that's a keyword for you. So when we talk about, you asked me a little bit before we went live here, how SEO can work. People looking for someone like you. So you're helping, I'm going to go back to my notes of what you said. You're helping with family feeding. You're helping families solve feeding issues. So when you talk about it like that, the big thing to understand from the other side of the picture is, what is a family who is having feeding issues with their kids going to be looking for online? In some cases, they're going to use having problems feeding my kids, picky eaters.
Yeah.
But they're also thinking about nutrition. You always want to look at the instant recognition of what people are going to notice you for. It sounds boring sometimes to say some of these words that everybody else might be using, but the reality is the average person skimming a website needs to hit on some of the words they recognize to know that you have part of this for them.
Yeah.
So when I look on your homepage on your website, and everybody knows when I do this, if you've listened to reviews before, I'm often going to read the words, and because we don't screen share here, it's all audio. So the big headline on Tamberly's page says, helping families to raise healthy eaters and solve feeding issues such as picky eating or weight concerns. So do you strictly work with families and kids? You don't do individual adult clients or anything like that? Or you may?
So the advice given to me when I started this private practice was to have a small niche and market.
Yep.
So I'm absolutely capable of working with adults, but my passion is helping parents feed their kids.
Perfect. And that's what I want to know about. So this is a very good message for your homepage. It's a key message because people that are looking for that kind of help will understand exactly what you're saying when they come to the page. But you may need to tweak just a little bit some of the information. Because if I look at your homepage, the word nutrition is on your homepage only in 3 spots. One of them is when you describe yourself as a nutritionist, registered dietitian nutritionist. One of them is in your title of your website, Tamberly Powell Nutrition. And one of them is down in the bottom when you talk about your approach. Part of what you want to make sure that you have on there is that you offer nutrition counseling services for families to help them with, I like this, solving feeding issues with kids and picky eating or weight concerns. The thing that you got, raise healthy eaters, solve feeding issues such as picky eating or weight concerns, but you're not really identifying the kids in that headline. So when we talk about those 5 questions, who's your ideal or client audience and what's their number one problem? You do say picky eating or weight concerns, but if you think about how they might Google for help, how do I solve, a problem with my child is a picky eater. Like a lot of them are going to use the word child, children, kids. So you want to make sure you tie them together as well and identify that very specific niche of client that you want to work with.
Do you think instead of starting with helping families, I should say providing nutrition counseling services to parents? Do I need to be specific like that or no?
No, that one's good. Helping families and kids, families and their children, even something as simple as that could add what you're looking for in there too. Your message is good. Like you've got it, then you've got feeding families a lot of work. It can be a struggle. Your kids like all different foods. You're concerned about them eating too much or too little. So this is where you're getting into the problem, but it's kind of hidden in a paragraph of a bunch of words. So you want to try to highlight that a little bit more. And part of what you want to do is talk about the solutions. So if you thought back for me to, that ideal client, and if they come to you, what are they, when they talk to you and say, I'm looking to, and they want to describe the help they want from you, what kind of words do they say? And how are they trying to, I want to do this because this is where I want to be. Do you have, and I know it's hard on the spot to think about this
it's
sometimes.
Actually okay because I just met with a client right before this.
Awesome.
And so the words they used were excited for food, nutrition came up, tell me what they want to eat.
Okay.
And responsibility feeding themselves.
All right.
So those were some of the words.
So those are very specific issues they're having, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at what you've got here, concerned about your child eating too much or too little, not eating enough fruits and veggies, eating too many sweets, that covers that for sure. You feel guilty you don't have the time to provide healthy home-cooked meals. They want to give them good nutrition, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you could also And it doesn't have to be here because it can come when you talk to people, right? You're worried about the nutrition for your kids. Like you want to make sure that you're always focusing on that. That's part of what you do. But where it comes from here, then you've got these struggles are real. I understand and I can help. And then you have a headline about Tamberly. Hi, I'm a mom, registered dietitian. I'm passionate about blah, 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 blah. Then you talk about your approach. I'm here to help you navigate mealtime struggles, teach you best practices for feeding your family that will end food battle, short order cooking, and guilt. So those are what they want to see happen. And they're kind of hidden down under something labeled my approach. So it's about you versus about helping them. Okay.
So maybe putting some of that at the top.
Yeah. And putting it in a way that it doesn't. So then you say, I used evidence-based models that promote blah, blah, blah. I take an all foods fit approach, blah, blah. If you're ready to bring peace and connection back to your family dinner table, that's a neat line. I'm excited to work with you. So it's a little I focused versus you focused, meaning you being them.
Right.
So what you want to do when we talk about what does your solution do for them, you have to lead with that and really make that clear to people. So part of what I would give you as action step here is to really think about how you can word some of this, because what you're going to have here is what you're going to put onto your Google business profile, health profs. It's what you're going to talk to people about, so, hey, Tamberly, you know what? I'm Kathy. What do you do for a living? Oh, well, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I specialize in working with families who have picky eaters and kids who just are not eating what everybody feels is healthy, and they're worried about getting the right nutrition, and they're concerned that is going to cause a lifelong problem for their kids. And I come in and I help them learn how they can change. I'm trying to read your website so I know what the answer is here. And how you can. So I come in and I help them. I help you learn how to shift some of the chaos that you have at, mealtime, and get over all the fighting and show you how mealtime can be a positive experience for everybody. And at the same time, shift the eating attitudes about everybody so that we can all have food enjoyment, good nutrition. And what's going to happen there is your family is going to be healthy and you're not going to be worried about the future for your kids.
I like it.
And I know it was a long way to describe it, but when you do this, you want to go with that, just go with the flow and let it all out. I will, by the way, send you, Tamberly, not everybody out there necessarily, the transcript from this. So you can look at all of those words and copy and paste what you want to play with. Okay. But what you want to do is you really want to focus on what your solution is going to do for them in a much more concrete and specific way, because you've got some of it there, but you're hiding it.
So do you feel like all that needs to be the biggest problem, the solution, how to deliver, how to get started, all needs to be in that very top
It should be before you tell them about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a module in my Thrive Marketing Academy where we, learn what elements you should include on your homepage. And there's 11 main elements, and some of them are optional, but the way they kind of come down in order is you have a big headline to try and catch the attention of that ideal client. You reference the problem and what's at stake for them, like what's going to happen if they don't make a change. So in this case, chaos at the table. Everybody's, it's just not fun for anybody in the family. You let them know what's at stake there. And then you give them an insight into what life could be like. And that's where we got into the peace at the table, and nobody's worried about anybody's nutrition because everybody's got the habits that they need to know, or the behaviors, or knows what they need to do action-wise to move ahead and ensure that you're doing everything you can to be a good parent, which for them, part of it means making sure their kids are eating well and getting the nutrition that they need. Right. At the same time, getting rid of the fights at the table. I mean, my middle child ate jam and bread, raspberry jam and white bread for 6 months one time. And it's frustrating as a parent. And so you can help them take away some of that fear about what this habit, what this picky eater, like what road are they going to go down in the future? Because that's what they're worried about. They're worried about them at 25 and 30. They're probably worried about some at 13, 14, 15 when eating disorders could start. Mm-hmm. And so that's what their concern is. That's what's at stake for them. So you want to make sure all of that comes before you.
Okay.
And that's how you make it about them. And so it's a process where you kind of start writing all these things down, look for ways that you can put it into a succinct kind of one-line message where you can say, hey, my name's Tamberly Powell. I own Tamberly Powell Nutrition. And you don't even have to say that because you're like, and then you don't want to say your website because they're all the same thing, right? So you could find a way to sort of shorten that and reduce it a bit. And that's where you get into, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I work with families who are experiencing all the struggles around mealtime and concern about picky eaters and worried about nutrition and what the future will hold for their kids when it comes to food nutrition. And I help them experience, like you kind of go into it that way. Right. And that way, when you say it to somebody, if that's them or it's their sister or their brother with their kids, they are going to have that instant, oh, yeah, I know what she means, because you're very specific about how you're saying it.
Right.
So that will give you a bit of an idea on how you can reframe your message and position it. So the thing is, people are probably coming to your website. I did want to ask you, do you have Google Analytics on there? Do you know if there's traffic, what it is?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Because you want to know that. All right. So we got to get people going there. So part of it might be needing some instigation and something to jumpstart getting Google and the search engines to recognize that you're there.
Yeah. And what do you recommend for that?
Part of that is getting content on social media, sharing some posts about your website and links back to your website, making sure that all of your social media profiles, and we didn't talk about this, so I don't know if you're actually on social media. One of the big benefits of social media, in particular Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, is that they are indexed by the search engines. So if you can get really well-rounded profiles there, headlines about areas, your picture, and the links back to your website, that will get you kickstarted on that as well. Plus, LinkedIn, if you don't do any social media, I always encourage business owners to have a LinkedIn profile because the headline is optimized there. And a lot of times, if people were thinking, oh, I met that Tamberly, she was a dietitian. I can't remember what her last name was. I saw her at that event. And they go Google Tamberly, probably put your city in there and dietitian. If you have a LinkedIn profile that's set up well, they should be able to find that, which would have a link to your website. And now they can get connected to you there. Okay, so that's part of how social media can help.
I'm not a huge fan of social media, so I'll have to, but knowing that I can just have a profile and not necessarily put content out is helpful.
Yeah. So, and we didn't really talk about social media, but at a minimum as a business owner, so forget like marketing your business on LinkedIn. Put a profile up there just to have a presence. The same as Health Profs and Google Business. They're directories, right? LinkedIn is kind of, it has another purpose. They'll hit me if they find out that I say it's a directory and nothing else, because it's more than that. But it can very much help you a lot like that as well. Part of it is, if you have absolutely no traffic, you've got to do some things that put links out there on the internet back to you. Getting the directories will help. Part of it is going to be doing some content online that would have links where people could look at your website. So that's your LinkedIn profile can have a link. Your Health Profs should have a link to the website. Your Google Business profile should as well. And it does take time starting out. It's not an instant overnight sensation with all of that. But if you absolutely have nothing going, like literally nobody coming in there, there's a very technical thing. I'm going to say it. I'm not going to go into detail on it. But you do want to make sure that Google has your sitemap registered through them. And the other thing that is very helpful is when you set up Google Analytics, it prompts you to connect to Google Search Console. And that is a really good tool where you'll get reports every month of any activity, and it will even give you things like what kind of traffic you had, but more importantly, what search terms people might have used to find you. So that's a key part as well.
Now
Now,
that's the Google Analytics through my website or through something else?
Through Google. So you have a Squarespace website, and I know there's analytics on the back end. Don't rely on that. Go to Google, open a Google Analytics account, and connect it to your website. It may be connected already, but you want to go deeper and follow the steps with that, because they need to have that sitemap sent and submitted to them. Squarespace, I think, might do that. You might have to look in the help files there, but those are some other pieces of just getting that digital footprint out there online and getting different things that are going to help those search engines find and know that you're here. If your website, though, has no blog, doesn't get updated content on it, and you're only, you have your home, your about, your workshops page, your contact me, that kind of stuff, and nothing new goes in there, you're going to be hard pressed for them to find you because they're only seeing static stuff. Optimizing the SEO on every page will be very important at that point. That's going to be a key thing. And I think I have a couple episodes on podcasts about SEO, but I do for some blogs for sure. So I'll put some links to those in the show notes for this episode for those that are listening, but I'll also send you some of those, Tamberly, before this goes live. But that's a key part of it as well. One of the modules that we do in the Academy is all about SEO and keywords, because it's like I help people do marketing without relying on social media. So you don't have to be there and be online all the time to get clients and get people to find your website and come in there. But there are key things that you do have to do, especially if you're not posting on Instagram or Facebook and trying to reach people there. You've got to be doing some other things that get people to your website. There's key elements in social media that can help do that. I would probably also, where your audience is families, there's a lot of families and a lot of community groups on Facebook and, mom groups on Facebook.
Right.
And I know that the dislike for it is there, but there are communities. We have, like around me, I've got several communities based in the area, which is important if you do in-person clients visits. You've got to connect to people that can drive to your office or walk to your office and meet you. Those can have there's good benefits to networking in them as well. So I wouldn't discount it. I'm not saying you got to go out there and post online, but think of those groups as a networking group, right? And there's probably women business groups, owner groups out there. Those are always a great safe space to go to as well. And in-person networking groups for business. Like, don't discount those, because those are key ways to find contacts and reach out to different people. But you do have a little bit of work to do on your SEO on your website, like kind of just looking at it, just to give you a bit of an idea. If I look at your about page, so your SEO title is Pediatric Dietitian in Eugene, Oregon. And then you've got your name of your company, Tamberly Powell Nutrition. Do families go looking for a pediatric dietitian? Is pediatric a word they probably use to search you?
I don't know.
If you don't know that, it may not be the ideal word to have connected on the title of the page. You could put it into your content. But you really have to get down and dirty into the weeds of how do they think about somebody like you when they go looking for you? What are they searching for? And that's where it comes back to what's their problem, right?
What about spelling? Does that matter? Because people always spell dietitian wrong.
Yeah, a lot of people spell it with the C instead of the T. So I wouldn't put it in a title or where you can visibly see it, because you obviously use the dietitian with a T. But there's some back-end places that you can actually put the word with a C in some keyword areas. So you can take advantage of that. But you want to look at like key ones like your home page. The SEO title is Tamberly Powell Nutrition. There is nobody who doesn't know you that is going to search on Google for Tamberly Powell Nutrition to find a dietitian to help their family with feeding their kids.
All the SEO stuff is behind the scenes stuff, right? So I can put anything in the title, in the description, and no one sees it.
Well, I can see it up there, and people can see it, but you don't want to put just anything in there. But what I would be putting is something like So I'll give you this as your last tip here to help you with this.
Okay.
Because you do have, I'll be honest, you've got a lot going on here and there's a lot of little pieces to figure out. These are steps I take people through in the academy, which is a year-long program to give you that support you need as you go and, build up the base, optimize everything. And then you typically spend the last 6 to 8 months getting out there and doing the marketing and all the work. But for you, I would have as your SEO title on your homepage, registered dietitian nutritionist in Eugene, Oregon, specialty working with families and kids, like something to that effect, right? Registered dietitian nutritionist, like registered's not as big as dietitian is important. Dietitian, because you only have a certain amount of space here to deal with as well. If we think about it, registered, let's go with dietitian nutritionist, helping families with picky eaters and nutrition concerns. And if you could get Eugene, Oregon there, that's great. Definitely Eugene, Oregon needs to be on your contact page in the title. Like those are places where you can put that as well. Okay. But that's what that's what your clients are going to look for. So right now with the homepage, Tamberly Powell, unless they know you, they're not going to catch you, right?
Right. Okay.
So that would be a big part to start with as well. And I know that one of the resources I gave out in that Facebook Live that I did, the teaching that I did there a couple weeks ago, was a link to a podcast episode on optimizing your contact page. And there's a download that you can get on there. So your contact page says you can contact Tamberly Powell in any of the following ways. Email, fill out the form below. You're missing some key SEO-rich content on that page, and it's all in the episode, but to give you the highlights, like what do they call it? The TLDR? Tamberly Powell, registered dietitian nutritionist in Eugene, Oregon. I work with families and kids to help them through nutrition counseling services to solve their picky eating or family feeding problems.
And that needs to be on the contact page or the SEO?
Absolutely, right on the contact page.
Okay.
That's a key part of it on the contact page, okay? Right now, Eugene, Oregon is not on your contact page. It doesn't say that you're there, right? So it's another way that you can naturally put that content in there to have your location added in there so that not only can people see it, but the search engines can. And if the content's on there and somebody goes, find a nutritionist near me, the near me is going to register. They're near Eugene, you're near Eugene, and match you up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of repetition on the web pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is. You want to keep things a little different, but there's really key parts that you want to have on there as well. And so that would be something is more than we can do here on the free marketing review, but I will say that that's a piece for you to really look at and fix up. Because right now you're missing some of that. And if you have absolutely no traffic and this has been out there since May, I'd also want to get in and look at your analytics and see what it tells me, because it can still tell you something. It may tell you that you're not connected at all, which would be the answer, right? But there are some elements here that you definitely want to look at for that.
Okay, that's a lot to think about.
It is. And I know we went a little over on this here. Sorry about that.
It's okay. And I would love to do your marketing class. I'm just got to finish up 2 other classes I'm doing.
Yeah, no problem. Well, it's open anytime for people to join in. So don't worry about that. I have a couple boot camps that are starting, and I always do a nice, get a free month launch at the end of November. So that will be happening as well. So people get in for 13 months instead of the 1 year. But you've got a good start here. There's just some really little pieces that we need to get nailed down. And that's going to help you with that organic traffic of people finding you. But then there are pieces you want to do as well to help with that organic aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. No problem. No problem. So hopefully that will give you some good tips to get going. And I do want to thank you for jumping on here and going through this with me. I always appreciate everybody doing these reviews because you're basically opening up about your own challenges with your business and sharing some issues you might be having. And it's great because other people do learn from it. I think that is a brave thing for people to do, is come in and say, I've got a problem. Can you publicly help me figure out a few things with it? So I do want to thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And anybody listening, you can book your own free marketing review. I will have a link to that in the show notes. And so, Tamberly, just as we finish up, do you just want to remind people where they can connect with you online?
You can connect with me at www.tamberlypowell.com.
And within 2 weeks, she's going to have a LinkedIn profile up there too, right?
That's right.
That one's the biggest one. If you don't do any other social media account or have anything, get a LinkedIn profile. That one is key. Okay.
It's on the to-do list.
Awesome. Thanks again for this. I'll put your contact info in the show notes as well. So if others want to connect with you, they can definitely do that. I've actually had an Ellen Satter dietitian in my academy before. She graduated in June this year. So,
fun.
Yeah, so I do know what all of that talk is about there with that model that you follow. So that is it, though, for today, everybody. Thank you for listening in. And remember, to thrive in practice or business means getting a message on your website that speaks not only directly to those ideal clients and answer those 5 questions, but it gives the search engine something to look for as well. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.